Welcome back, True Seeker. September 11th, 2018. This evening on the East Coast, late afternoon on the West Coast, I'll be on the Chad Factor talking about September 11th. And this morning, what I want to do is talk about this story that's circulating in the headlines right now. The news broke September 9th. Articles have been published since then, up to today, about this sacred red cow being born in Israel. They're saying this red cow fulfills a 2,000-year-old Bible prophecy, and the time is now for the third temple to be built in Jerusalem. Of course, the building of the third temple would ignite a holy war. And if you've been following my work for any length of time, I've been talking about how Donald Trump, as the president, foreshadows the coming of the third temple. I talked about this a lot last year, May of 2017, when Donald Trump was in Israel for Jerusalem Day. And if you forgot those things, we're going to revisit it in this video. Understand, the prophecy from the Bible is being contrived by the world elite for agenda. And September 11th, 2001 was part of that agenda. And September 11th, the destruction of the two towers had everything to do with Tisha B'Av, the Jewish day to remember the destruction of the two temples. So let's go through this piece by piece. If you're new here, I want to educate you about what the news does when they emphasize headlines. Notice the word sacred emphasized. We're going to touch on that in a moment. This other headline here emphasizes born in Israel in 2,000 years fulfills prophecy. And notice the picture, the end is near with it. These things, not an accident. So if you read these articles, they're all about Revelation and the prophecy from Revelation and the rapture. We're going to go through all of this. But just know, the book of Revelation, it is 22 chapters long, the book of Revelation. 22 chapters in Revelation. Revelation's the 66th book of most Bibles. Unless it's a Catholic Bible, then it's the 73rd book. But for most Bibles, it's the 66th book. 22 chapters. In numerology, 11 is the master number, and 22 is the master builder number. Very special numbers in numerology, the most powerful numbers. The thing about 66 is it has a relationship with 11. If you add 1 through 11 together, it sums to 66. In Revelation, there's the return of Jesus. In Gematria, a biblical practice, coding numbers into words, Jesus sums to 11. Revelation about the return of Jesus. Revelation also has Gematria of 121, a number that has a square root of 11. And again, if you add 1 through 11, it equals 66. Revelation, the 66th book. In Revelation, you learn about 666, the number of the beast. Remember, Revelation was written by the Greeks. The Greeks practiced this code of letters and numbers. They called it isopsophy. In the English alphabet, the word isopsophy sums to 666. Revelation 13:18 is a Greek isopsophy riddle about 666. The word beast also has gematria of 11. Number of the beast equals 66. Number of a man equals 66. Mankind made on the sixth day. The number of the beast is the number of a man from Revelation 13:18. In the King James Bible, Revelation 13:18 begins, here is wisdom, period. Here is wisdom equals 66. Anyway, in this code of gematria, I want you to see that the sign, the end is near, sums to 202. End of the world, which is terminology used in the articles being reported, 202. And understand, the end of the world's not coming. Revelation's misinterpreted by most people, which we're going to talk about. Perhaps the end of the world as we know it, but not the end of the world. Anyhow, what's emphasized here, born in Israel in 2,000 years fulfills prophecy, that also sums to 202. There are 4 base ciphers. You learn these 4 base ciphers. You see all riddles that come through the mainstream media. 202 in numerology is the exact same as 22, like the 22 chapters of Revelation, the final book of the Bible. So, Revelation, it's about the apocalypse, but you have to go back to Greek. Apocalypse doesn't mean the end of the world in Greek. And the Greeks wrote the Bible. What apocalypse means is having this fulfillment of the mind, like this moment of understanding, this clarity. Have you heard the phrase, having a revelation? You know, I just had a revelation. It's all about the mind's eye. The mind's eye is the pineal gland. And look at what pineal gland equals, 202. You know? So, New York Post, prophecy fulfilled after red cow was born at Temple of Israel. And if you read the article, it brings up Revelation 21:8, which is about, all the sinners being cast in the lake of fire, all the non-believers, all the sinners. Just before that, Revelation 21:7 is about, the believers, what happens to them. What happens to them in the end of the world. Then the next verse is about, what happens to all the bad people, essentially. Anyway, the New York Post brings up all this in their article. They use the word rapture. I just want you to see that they published on September 9th. On September 9th, they published this article, Rapture 99. Now let's come back up here to this other emphasized headline, sacred. Why did they emphasize sacred? In gematria, sacred sums to 112, like Zionist, like Donald, like mathematics. Donald Trump, an absolute Zionist. Every president of the United States is. That's why every president, the first thing they do as president is they go before AIPAC, the Zionist Israel lobby. And with regards to 112, I want to remind you about the history of Israel by the numbers. In the United States of America, we are not taught about World War I, and for a very specific reason. If we knew the truth about World War I, we'd understand the lies of World War II. That simple. November 2nd, 1917, during World War I, the Balfour Declaration was written to Lord Rothschild, the Zionist banker, and it was about how if the United States could be persuaded into joining the war effort to fight Germany, the Rothschilds are in the UK, if they would fight against Germany, it would deliver the Zionist state of Israel. And the wording of that document is here. I have such pleasure in conveying to you, and notice it's written out to dear Lord Rothschild, on behalf of the majority's government, the following declaration of sympathy with Jewish Zionist aspirations, which has never submitted to and approved by the cabinet. Read more about this Balfour Declaration. It's about delivering the Zionist Jewish state of Israel, dated November 2nd, during World War I. If you want to go back and look more at World War I history and even what happened before World War I, over 100 times it was printed in papers from the United States to other parts of the world. No one printed it more than the New York Times, that 6 million Jews had died in a corner of Russia or Eastern Europe. It was printed hundreds of times. 6 million Jews had died or were dying. And this is before World War I. This is during World War I. What did they tell you after World War II? How many Jews supposedly died in the Holocaust? Was it 6 million? It's because the number comes from the Talmud. 6 million Jews have to die for the Jewish people to reclaim Israel. We're living out a contrived prophecy that is forced through the people who control media, banks, government, and they've done everything by the numbers that they've encoded in this language that they've given the world. This is why English is the language of the New World Order. Here's another article. This one was actually published today, September 11th. If you missed my video on last night's Monday Night Football game, in the late hours, it was September 11th on the East Coast. They had a woman hold up her arm with the Star of David tattooed on it. Don't forget, Star of David equals 119. So does Orthodox. So does Ashkenazi Jews. In the Bible, the Jews are black people. Dark skin, hair of wool. In the end of the Bible, it says the false Jews will rule in the end times. Ask yourself, who are these white people that we call Jewish? Jewish, like sort of, like not really. Anyway, by the way, the woman holding up her wrist with the Star of David on 11/9, September 11th with the Star of David, she was white, She also looked like she was under MK Ultra. Her face was just like, I don't know, like a zombie. Anyway, red Heifer. You see this emphasis? These are the 4 base ciphers, right? All of these numbers jump out. Don't misinterpret what I'm saying, but this is a fact. When Hitler took over Germany, he told his people, look, there's a Jewish boycott against us. Look up the Jewish boycott of 1933. They want to destroy us. They want to ruin us. They gave us all the reparations for World War I, which they conspired against us. These people want our demise. And he said, these people are hiding in the Masonic lodges and they're plotting against you. So when Hitler took over, he shut down all the Masonic lodges in every territory that he took over. And rightfully so. You know, what he said is not untrue. There was a Jewish boycott. There was a conspiracy against Germany. They were wrongfully made to pay for all of World War I when it was all part of an agenda. You have to go back to what was going on in Africa, which Europe was colonizing before World War I. France and UK were taking up all the territories, but then Germany began to take territories, and France and the UK did not like that. They didn't want them taken, they didn't want Germany taking what they had taken, which was rightfully theirs that they had stolen from the African people. This is how it all started. This is how the whole snowball started, Not that any of these nations were in the right, but this is the history that's all forgotten. Anyway, this emphasized phrase, red Heifer, gematria of 78 and 165, just like Scottish Rite. And it is no secret that the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry is Jewish. It is predominantly Jewish. Almost everyone in it's Jewish. It's not a coincidence. So you do the base ciphers, you'll see Scottish Rite 78, 165. With regards to the 60 and 48, a number of things pop out, including Judgment Day. If you read these articles, they all mention that this cow being born is the sign of the third temple coming, and Judgment Day, another concept from Revelation. D-Day in World War II was 6-6, kind of like Revelation, 66th book, D-Day, Judgment Day, there's a relation there. Day of death and killing and chaos, kind of like what Revelation presents. But Judgment Day 4860, with regards to 48 in Israel, Israel officially became a nation May 14th, 1948. It was recognized as a nation in 47, like how Star of David equals 47, like how there's 47 degrees on the Freemason compass, which represents foundation, but it was officially established in 48. In Revelation, the name for the false Jews who are said to rule in the end times is the Synagogue of Satan. Synagogue of Satan, 223, the 48th prime number. Masonic also 223. Okay, special numbers here. Freemason 48 in English and in Hebrew. Illuminati 48. Illuminati means in the light, knowing. Freemasonry is the pursuit of light, So now let's get to the point. All of these articles talk about the third temple coming. This cow's the sign that it's time for the third temple. That means they'll have to destroy where the first 2 temples were, which is now the Muslim holy place. This is why the Holy War is part of this. Just think about what's been brewing in this nation, coming to a peak ever since September 11th. This is why I've been speaking out ever since September 11th. I saw all this coming. And I wish I could remember my college professor's name from my freshman year. It was his name started B-Y and then something. I can't remember his other letters. But I was a freshman in college when 9/11 happened. And I actually brought it up in my English course. I just wanted to start a discussion in class. I like to speak about things. I made a lot of people hate myself when I was in college. A lot of people want to fight me. I was down in Arizona, conservative state, I remember Arizona after 9/11. Everyone had a flag on their car, and half the people had a target with Osama bin Laden's face on it. But I was questioning 9/11, telling people to think about things, and a lot of students didn't like it, but the professor after class pulled me aside, and he told me to start researching the history of the 2 temples. It was like he knew something. He was cluing me in. I had a lot to learn still then. But anyway, all of this is one interconnected riddle, one interconnected contrived prophecy. Again, just in case you're new here, something that's in my book, something I've talked about 1,000 times, is Tisha B'Av is the day to remember the destruction of the 2 temples. and Tisha B'Av in Jewish gematria equals 9/11. The destruction of the two temples, Tisha B'Av. The destruction of the two towers, 9/11. You get it. But anyway, let's come back to this. Been talking about this for more than a year with Donald Trump, the winner of the 58th U.S. presidential election, who announced he was running for president from the 58-story Trump Tower, who hired the 58-year-old Steve Ray for Inauguration Day. This is in many of my past videos, blog posts. It's in my book. Donald Trump, to me, foreshadows the coming of the Third Temple. And this became very clear again when he was in Israel for Jerusalem Day and was at the site of where the two temples once stood. Third temple equals 58. Solomon's temple equals 58. That's the first temple. Herod's temple, 58. That's the second temple. Jerusalem, 58. You know, think about Donald Trump, the winner of the 58th U.S. presidential election, who had this huge ritual around 58 in Jerusalem for Jerusalem Day. Just think about it. What's he even doing over there? You know? With regards to Freemasonry, which is very Jewish, largely based in the 39 books of the Old Testament. Freemasonry, 58. Solomon's Temple from the Old Testament. Freemasonry, 58. Rosicrucian, 58. Secret Society, 58. I want you to think about this being Bible prophecy. I want you to think about King James, who has a Bible named after him. I want you to think about how King James was a Freemason and a Rosicrucian and dropped dead at age 58, unexpectedly. In Freemasonry, you have to believe in God, the four-letter name of God from the Old Testament. Tetragrammaton is what the four-letter name of God stands for, 58. Calendar, 58. The English alphabet standardized as a 26-letter alphabet. The spellings we use today standardized at the same moment in history the Gregorian calendar was rolling out. The calendar system we're now on. The nonsensical calendar system, where we start the new year in the dead of winter instead of the old calendar, the Julian calendar, where it started at the beginning of spring when things were anew. They did all this on purpose for their planned ritual, for their planned new world order that we're living out. They had to line everything up. And these people celebrate death. That's why the new year is in the middle of the dead of winter. Anyway, calendar 58, Gregorian 58, zodiac 58, stars 58, star 58. Alphabetic order forwards and backwards, the 4 base ciphers. Very simple to learn. Once you learn it, opens you up to a whole new world of understanding. So now here's a shot at Donald Trump. Remember the articles when Trump was first elected? A lot of people called him the first Jewish president. And I had to raise an eyebrow at this because as far as I know, Trump's not really Jewish. But a number of major outlets said he's the first Jewish president. And if you read the articles, the reason they said that is because all of his children, except for the littlest one, Barron, have married into Jewish families. All of his children married into Jewish families. And I'm sure little Barron someday will too. But anyway, Donald Trump, he's got on his little skull cap, you know, the Jewish people wear. Here he is at the Western Wall by the numbers. Western Wall has gematria 44. He did this on a date with 44 numerology. He's the 45th president, but only the 44th person to be president. Israel equals 44. Western Wall 44. Netanyahu 44. He was with Netanyahu on that day. All ritual by the numbers. The word prophet has gematria 44. Little contrived prophecy, a little foreshadowing here. Just a reminder that Trump Tower, 58 stories where he announced he was running from. 58 stories. Ivanka equals 58. Camera couldn't come off Ivanka Trump on the 58th U.S. presidential inauguration. And I better just say it because somebody leaves the comment every time, Donald Trump's not the 58th president, he's the 45th. Yeah, listen, learn. 58th presidential election. Some presidents serve 2 terms. That's why it's the 58th election. He's the 45th president. You know, that one's out there for the person who's watching, thinking they're smarter than me. Berlin Wall equals 45. Mike Pence equals 45. Donald Trump announces the 45th anniversary on the fall of the Berlin Wall. Mr. Wall at the wall in Jerusalem. You're not smarter. Moving on. They talk about how the cow has to be blemish-free for the third temple to be built. Other articles written have said that this cow is blemish-free. Notice blemish-free equals 57, like Scottish Rite, like Jews, like moon. And you know what? here's what else I should have put up here. These articles are coming between September 9th and September 11th. That's Rosh Hashanah this year. It's the new Jewish year. It's the year 5779 on the Jewish calendar year. Rosh Hashanah 57. September 10th, 2018 was a date with 57 numerology. Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year. Blemish-free cow. Articles coming during the time of Rosh Hashanah. Just so you can see, just in case you haven't watched my other videos. Rosh Hashanah 2018, September 9th to September 11th. The time that this news is breaking. This entire code of letters and numbers, it's synced up with time. It's synced up with the calendars. The Jews identify through the moon. Jews and moon also 57. Scottish Rite, the most Jewish branch. September 10th, 2018, Monday Night Football games. They put the Star of David right on the screen. As it's September 11th on the East Coast. Still September 10th, the date with 57 numerology on the West Coast. So here, just more of this language, end of times referred to in the article. The end of times in quotes. I want you to see something. End of times. This has to do with September 11th. The World Trade Centers were 110 stories tall. End of times, 110, 47, 52. Notice that. Look at the president. 110, 47, 52. Don't forget the commercial of Donald Trump from 2009, dressed up in the same outfit he wore for election night, talking to sheep on pillars. Sheep with a number 11, a sheep with a number 9. They're both standing on pillars. Looking good, number 9. Looking good, number 9. What he says to the sheep at the end, when you add 1 through 9, it equals 45, like how he became the 45th president. The commercial was from 2009. Holy Bible's 9 letters. When you add 1 through 9, again, it equals 45. Holy Bible equals 45 in 2 of the 4 base ciphers, the dark blue and the light blue. That's the same with Mike Pence, too. He's 45, 45 in those 2 ciphers. But end of times and president, that Sertica mattress ends with a sheep looking at the camera and saying, "Where is your dignity?" As if the sheep's talking to a society of degenerates, which is what Revelation 21:8 speaks to. And my goodness, as I say that, I remember something. You'll notice a lot of times the media will spell Trump's name in all caps. They'll spell it in all caps. You know, the pussy grabber. Hit the wrong button there. When his name's in all caps, Trump, the trumpets are the warnings in Revelation. The trumpets, the warnings, you know. Mike Pence, 45, 45. Holy Bible, 45, 45. But anyway, Donald Trump, the pussy grabber, you know, the unapologetic asshole, the swindler, the liar, you know, the con man, the slumlord, the despicable character that somehow a big chunk of the truth community has been duped into thinking is fighting the New World Order, when it couldn't be any more obvious that he's a puppet. You know, all these people in Q that are using the knowledge that I've put out, they need to stop. They're making a mockery of what I've taught, using this knowledge to show that Trump's some sort of hero, got people looking for the hunt for Red October because a politician had a red tie on. I mean, you Q people need to wake up. Politicians wear red ties every day. Q puts out a tweet about, look at this politician in a red tie. I think it means hunt for Red October and Trump's fighting the New World Order. I mean, you guys are being played for fools. Go look at the Serta commercial, the suit and tie, talking about born for the job. Show you something about Serta. Notice the 63. Look at what happens when I type in Berlin Wall. 45, 63. A commercial that foreshadowed him being announced as the president on November 9th as he was. Sheep 11 and 9 on pillars. The Berlin Wall came crumbling down on November 9th. The World Trade Centers came crumbling down on September 11th. Anyway, Donald Trump, I said this a long time ago, him being the 45th, this whole nation being a big Bible riddle by this code of letters and numbers, this Jewish contrived prophecy, the world wars, all this stuff. Everything I've been talking about since 2015 becomes more and more clear by the day. These are the points I'm trying to make. Q doesn't know what they're talking about. Well, they do. They're here to mislead people who are looking for truth. They're here to mislead the sheep, which is why they had Donald Trump talking to sheep, which is what all of his base is. In fact, all of the people who believe in the U.S. federal government and political system, they're all sheep too. It's not just the Trump supporters. It's the Hillary supporters. It's the Obama supporters. It's all the people who don't see what this nation is. But anyway, just look at the overlap with all these things on the screen. Prophecy, 52, 110, end of times, 110, 52. This whole thing about prophecy being fulfilled. These are all the things I've been expressing for all this time. Wrote a book about it now. Going to have to write a new book before long because there's just been so much more that's happened since I released it in March. If you have not picked up my book, 773 pages, $5, and all the knowledge you need to know about what's going on in this world. Undeniable. So I want to show you something. They said this cow was born on September 4th, right? Remember what happened last year, September 4th, 2017? They turned the moon blood red throughout the entire northern part of the United States. From the west coast to the east coast, the moon appeared red that night. Red, because of all the fires that were burning across the United States. There were so many wildfires. The sky was so filled with smoke, it made the moon red through the entire cross of the northern United States. And we uncovered this. And I talked about the prophecy of the red moon and all this from Revelation. That was September 4th last year. And I was saying this isn't some accident. This isn't some natural phenomenon. This ritual is being done on purpose. And it foreshadows this negative prophecy from Revelation. So here we are a year later, September 4th, 2018. 2018, kind of like Revelation 21:8. And I've talked many times about how Revelation 21:8, let's just read it. Let's read Revelation 21:8. Talked about this for years. This is the verse that defines what the United States of America is, overwhelmingly. You don't have to believe in the Bible to read this verse and understand it. But the cowardly, the unbelieving, the vile, the murderers, the sexually immoral, those who practice magic arts, the idolaters, and all liars, they will be consigned to the lake of burning sulfur. That is the second death. Now, I'm not saying to believe in heaven or hell. That's not my message. Leave off this part about burning in the lake of the fire, just the description of the people. Those are the people who largely live in the United States of America. A nation of cowards, overwhelmingly. Unbelieving. These people don't even know what to believe in. What you're supposed to believe in is yourself. Jesus is the light within all of us. You're supposed to believe in yourself. You're supposed to do right. You're supposed to follow the teachings of Jesus. Treat others the way you want to be treated. The Bible has been morphed into something other than what it was supposed to be. It's been morphed into this thing that makes people put their power outside of themselves, waiting for some hero to come save them. And in this nation, people are waiting for the great white hope, even though there's only two physical descriptions of Jesus, and he has hair of wool and dark skin. This nation's full of vile people, selfish people, liars, sexually immoral. I'm no saint, but, I know I've done a lot better than most people. So, anyway, I want to show you something else about September 4th in light of this article talking about how the Jewish Messiah is about to return. I've even said in this sick, contrived prophecy, Donald Trump might truly be the Jewish Messiah from the New World Order. In their mind, in this ritual that's playing out. I've said this many times before. Donald Trump could be their Jewish Messiah. When the third temple is built, the Jewish Messiah will return. It's possible it happens in the time of Trump. Hey, with regards to Trump in Revelation 21:8, don't forget what happened to the Republican Party on August 21st. I talked about that then. The big 88 riddle. Just want to show you something about, Trump and all that 8 and 8 on August 21st. Cohen with the 8 counts. Manafort guilty with the 8 counts. Duncan Hunter. Remember, Trump, also 88. Jewish, also 88. But coming back to this, September 4th has the gematria of 74, Jewish Messiah, Jewish 74, Messiah 74, Lucifer 74, Jesus 74, Cross 74, Masonic 74, English 74, gematria 74, occult 74, holiday 74, Independence Day 74. Think about it. It's no secret who built this nation. Nation built by Freemasons and Jewish bankers from the beginning. See the Jewish documentary Four Blood Moons. They say without the Jew Christopher Columbus, there'd be no America. Without the Jewish bankers who paid for the American Revolutionary War, there'd be no America. Nation's always been ruled over by the same people. Prophet. Prophet. Think about that word prophet. Think about the two meanings of prophet. Who's fulfilling prophecy? Is it not the bankers that profit off the interest of keeping us a nation of debt slaves? Anyway, September 4th. Here's what else you need to know about September 4th. That date can be written 4/9 like 49. This whole thing's about prophecy from Revelation. Revelation 49. Talked about this a year ago when they turned the moon blood on September 4th, 2017. Revelation 49. Donald J. Trump 49. Washington 49. Washington named after the Scottish Rite Freemason George Washington. Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, the most Jewish branch, has their headquarters in Washington, D.C. Scottish 49. America 49. Look up the coordinates of Washington, D.C. Oh, hell, let's just do it right now. Washington, D.C. coordinates. It's the 38th parallel. It's the 77th meridian. 3877. Now, why does that matter? Why does it matter 3877? You guys want to know something today? September 11th, 2018. The Pentagon construction began 77 years ago. September 11th, 1941. But here's why it matters. Judaism 77. Zionist 77. Jew 38. Kabbalah equals 38 in English and Hebrew. This is the code of the elite. Kabbalah. That's why Morals and Dogma has a statue under Albert Pike's arm in D.C. In Morals and Dogma, the Freemason text, he says Freemasonry owes all thanks to Kabbalah. Washington, D.C. is a big Kabbalah capital. They didn't put those coordinates there for any other reason than this. It was all planned that way when they mapped it out. Remember, there'd be no Israel without the United States of America, the Jewish Masonic nation. The United States of America is all part of this planned New World Order prophecy agenda. It's what it is. Also, prophecy fulfilled after Red Cow was born. And what day is it born? September 4th, at least so they tell us. Red Cow 94. You can write the date September 4th, 9/4. And I said to watch out for the headlines that day. When you write out 94, it sums to 147, like Freemason 147, like Conspiracy 147, like how when you write out 47th, it sums to 147. Jacob, who becomes Israel, dies in the 47th chapter of Genesis at age 147. There's 147 windows on the White House. U.S. President, 147. President of the United States, 147. Donald Trump, being where he is in the world, the most powerful military nation on earth. Like I said, when it happened, it's all a sign. November 9th, Star of David, 119. Orthodox, 119. You pull out the Jewish gematria cipher. You type in Donald, 119. You watch Monday Night Football. It's September 11th on the East Coast. You got the Star of David on the screen. September 11th, the two temples are crushing to the ground. Or are they the two towers? I can't keep it straight. September 4th, 2018, it was also a date with 51 numerology. Jews equals 51 as well in the base ciphers. So does conspiracy. Did we talk about how conspiracy was 147 as well in the base ciphers? 57 also like Jews. A little bit too much overlap, huh? Don't forget, this code comes from Jewish mysticism, Kabbalah. It's called gematria. Sums to 74 like English. You know, like all this right here. Also in the news today, more mocking, showing you the footage of the towers just before they collapsed with all this smoke and debris from an explosion. Hollywood puts out a movie about 9/11 and the collapse of the towers, and through the whole movie, bombs are going off. I thought the planes brought it down. I thought there were no bombs. Here, I want to show you guys one more, just since it's September 11th, just in case you're new here, just in case you're thinking, oh, I'm not sure if this is true or if he's making all this up. Remember, it goes beyond the letters and numbers. The way you prove the letters and numbers is by measuring the dates. Osama bin Laden died May 2nd, 2011. In case you forgot, I want to show you. Osama bin Laden, date of death, May 2nd, 2011. By the way, the word terrorist equals 52. So does the word president. Obama, he was inaugurated January 20th, 2008, right? January 20th, 2008. January 20th is inauguration day. Or no, not 2008, 2009, excuse me. He ran for president in 2008, elected in 2008, accepted the presidency November 4th, 2008, inauguration date January 20th, 2009. To May 2nd, 2011 is how many weeks? It's 180 if you count the full span. So that just means counting inauguration day, counting the day Osama died, span of 119 weeks. 119. And here's another good one. Osama bin Laden. We'll type in the date Osama bin Laden's father died. We'll just type that in. Osama bin Laden's father died September 3rd, 1967. Now, how many days in the year does September 3rd leave? Oh, it leaves 119 days left in the year. 119. And if you look up how Osama bin Laden's father died, he died in a plane crash. What a coincidence. What's also the thing about September 3rd? Does that remind you of the 93 World Trade Center bombing? Does it remind you of Flight 93, the first plane to crash and leave no debris? Does it remind you of how the first plane hit the World Trade Centers at 9:03 a.m. in the morning, East Coast time, 9:03? Does it remind you that the boundaries of Israel were first drawn up September 3rd, 1947? Because they were. How about the name of the building that now stands where the World Trade Centers were? One World Trade Center, 93. You want to know why? It's because the elite worship Saturn, the keeper of time. Saturn sums to 93. Just like how they tell us the sun is 93 million miles away. This entire code comes back to time. Everything's a ritual in time. This story comes at the beginning of the new Jewish year, the year 5779 on the Jewish calendar. And just because I don't know and I just want to check myself, I want to see if that's a prime number. It is. It's the 758th prime number. And there's probably something to 758 that I don't know about. So I am going to research that. But understand prime numbers are very special. They're seen as more sacred. They're seen as strong, powerful, because they cannot be divided. So, next riddle to find out. What's 758 all about? These people have meanings for their numbers. The numbers are a language. There's debate about what years the Jewish temples were destroyed. I'm going to do some more thinking on it. It might have something to do with the temples and their destruction and rebuilding. But just understand, they want people in fear. They're fulfilling their plan. And it really kills me, all the people who think Donald Trump is fighting the New World Order. You know, you got to look up this commercial, Donald Trump talking to the Serta sheep. Let's just do it. Let's close it out right here.
Listen, why don't you come work for me?
What do you have in mind?
Something you were born to do.
Welcome to room 9.
Looking good, number 9. Looking good.
Where's your dignity?
Understand he's wearing the same suit and tie he wore on election night. When you add 1 through 9, it equals 45. Sheep on pillars, 11 and 9. It's just so in your face. How you could ever think this guy's not part of the New World Order is just beyond me, you know. And again, Holy Bible. 4 letters, 5 letters. Holy Bible, 45, 45. You add 1 through 9, it equals 45. There's 9 letters. Mike Pence is VP, 45, 45. This knowledge is Hermetic, 45, 45. Look up Hermeticism, the 7 principles of Hermeticism. Again, 1 is vibration. All numbers carry a vibration that have an influence, an impact. And I know all you Christians out there saw that 153 on the Holy Bible. That's the 17th triangular number, meaning if you had 1 through 17, it equals 153. God 17. God rested on the 7th day. Rest 17. 17, the 7th prime. Learn the code, learn a lot. I'm going to take a little rest. Till next time, Truth Seeker.